So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over the Aqa Gcse Maths of 2022 Foundation Paper 3, going through the Algebra section from the Advanced Information. And here we'll be going through some general advice, some predicted types of questions that could come up in your exams, before going through some past paper exam questions related to each of these topics. Now, before we get started working through some example questions, let's just have a quick look at what is written on the Foundation Algebra section for the Paper 3 paper. So looking at this, I would say that the algebra topics aren't that bad. And I think that there may be some links with other topics which will make questions particularly difficult. But personally speaking, I think that a lot of the practice questions that you would have done based around your preparation for this exam should be good enough. So let's just go through each of the topics individually. So equations, number machines, that's basically going to be working with number machines, either working with input, you substituting values into a function machine and then working out the output, or the reverse, but also being able to do that with algebra. So having a algebraic term, let's say x, and putting it through a function machine to then write down what the output is going to be as a expression. And again, with the fact that substitution is written on there and simplification is on there, that then could be a couple of things that are joined in. Now, simplification, that's basically collecting like terms. Substitution and formula go in hand in the fact that you'll be substituting numbers into a formula. Maybe also working with turning that formula into an equation. So sometimes you're kind of substituting values into a formula to then work out what the output is. Or alternatively, you could then have to work out what one of the variables are, what one of the letters are. And I would say that could be either separate questions or combined into one particular question. Now, when it comes to graphs, it's again the fact that there's no plotting on there or any quadratic graphs or linear graphs. So I would say that typically they'll give you a graph and you just need to write down what the roots are and what the turning point is. So it's really important that you do know the difference between the two. So the roots are where the curve crosses the x-axis and it's the x-ordinates. So you just want to give the x-ordinates, not the coordinate, as an answer. And the turning point is either the maximum point or the minimum point. So typically with a turning point, if I just get a pen here, so your graph will either look like this or it will look like this, and your turning point are either the max or the minimum point. And again, you want to give your answer as a coordinate. Now, with regards to arithmetic and geometric questions, now this seems to be quite a popular topic that's appearing a lot more on revision lists and exam papers. However, there aren't really that many past exam questions based around these topics. So it's really important that you do practice and understand the difference between the two. So with an arithmetic sequence, that's where the difference between each term is either adding or subtracting a number. And whereas with a geometric sequence, that is where you're either multiplying or, let's say, dividing, which is technically the same as multiplying depending on the common ratio. So if you have absolutely no idea what you're doing with those topics, or that you want a bit of extra practice, then I strongly recommend that you watch the video that I've produced going through these two topics in a lot more detail. Now, when it comes to the nth term, that's again where you've got a sequence and you then need to write down the rule. And again, it's most likely going to be involved with the arithmetic sequence rather than the geometric. And now, like I said, the collection of questions that I've chosen to help with revision of these particular topics should put you in good stead going into that exam. Now, before we get started working through these questions, just a little reminder that if you're wanting to have an attempt at these questions before or while watching this video, then all you need to do is just click on the link in the description below and you'll have access to these questions. So let's get started on the first one. So the first one involves function machines. It says here is a number machine. We've got input times 4 plus 9 and we've got an output. It says work out the output when the input is 16. So for this, all we need to do is stick 16 there and then follow these instructions. So here I've got to do 16 times 4, work it out, and then add 9 to the answer, in which if you type that into your calculator, you should have an answer of 73. Moving on to question 2, again it says complete the number machine so that Q equals 7R minus 2. Now for this, what we've got is 7R means 7 times R, or R times 7. So we need to do this bit first. So that's going to be times 7. And then we've got to do with the minus 2. We've got minus 2 there. And then in the output is just going to be Q And there we go, because obviously that is the subject of what it equals. Then for B, it says write down the output of y in terms of x. So here we want to write basically a formula that involves y. So for this, I'll start with x, and you then need to add 5 and then multiply the answer by 3, and that equals y. So we can write the answer as either y equals 3 bracket x plus 5, or you could expand the brackets and write y equals 3x plus 15. Now try not to have more than one answer. Try and just be confident in writing just one and hope that it is correct. Moving on to question 3, it says work out the output of y when x equals 4. So again, we're just substituting 4 into this. So it'd be 4 times 6, then press equals, and then with the answer, we're going to take away 5, in which you should have an answer of 19. Then for question B, it says complete the number machine so that y equals 2 and then x plus 7. So looking at this, you've got to think about what do you do first to x? Well, I'm going to add 7 and then I'm going to multiply it by 2. It then says here is a different number machine, and it says that the input x divided by 2 plus 3 equals y. So let's start by writing that down. So here I've got x. First thing I've done is divided by 2. And then I'm going to add 3 to the answer. So that's what I'm looking for, and that equals y. So it's going to be our first option that I need to highlight. Moving on to question 4, again number machine. So it says work out the value of x. Now for this, what I need to do is write down what it is. So here I've got x times 4, which is 4x, minus 5, and that equals 2x. So from this, I've got a double-sided equation. So I take away the smallest x from both sides, so end up with 2x minus 5 equals 0. Take the 5 over to the other side, so end up with 2x equals 5. So then x is either going to equal 5 over 2 or 2.5, depending on whether you prefer to work with fractions or decimals. Then moving on to question 5, it says here is another number machine. It says the output is 3 times the input. So let's start by, well, if the input is x, then the output is going to be 3 times as much. So that's going to be 3x. So from this, what we've got to do is very, very similar to what we did before. So here I've got to set my equation, so x times 5, which is 5x, take away 9, and that equals 3x. So again, with a double-sided equation, you take away the smallest x from both sides, leaving me with 2x minus 9 equals 0. Take the 9 over, so x equals 9 over 2, or 4.5. And again, it's entirely up to you which one you prefer. Moving on to question 6, it says simplify fully. So from this, what we need to do, if we simplify the bracket first, well, 2 times 4a is 8a plus 9. And then if I simplify 15a divided by 3, well, 15 divided by 3 is 5. So that's going to be plus 5a minus 7. So in this, all I've got to do is collect the like terms. So I've got 8a plus 5a, which is 13a. And then 9 minus 7 is positive 2. So it's 13a plus 2. The next question I've then got to do is match up each expression on the left with the one on the right. The first one has been done for us. So if I just zoom out so we can see all the options and just get them all on screen. So here we've got a plus a plus a plus a, which is 4a. So that's going to be this one here. And you'll get 1 mark for each one that you do correctly. 4 times a times b is 4ab. A times a times a times a is a to the power of 4. And a plus b is 2a plus 2b, which is there. And again, you get 1 mark for each one that you do correctly. Moving on to question 8, it says simplify 3a minus 3a plus a. So 8a minus 3a is 5a plus another a is 6a. The next one, 8x minus 3 plus 3x. Well, the only thing I can simplify are those two. So 8 plus 6 is 14 minus 3, which is our fourth option. And then 10, simplify 7x plus 3 minus 3x is 4x, and 5 take away 8 is minus 3. So I'm looking for 4x minus 3, which is our third option. Moving on to question 11, it says this formula converts temperature into degrees Fahrenheit to Kelvin A pottery oven is heated to 2192 degrees Fahrenheit. Work out the temperature in Kelvin. And this question is worth 3 marks, which I would say is extremely generous. Let me just zoom in. And of course it's reset. So let's just go back to that question. And there we go. So from this, all we got to do is substitute F equals 2192. That's what I'm substituting in. So here I've got 5 over 9, and then I've got 2192 minus 32 plus 273. Now, again, if you type this into your calculator, that should get you the marks, but let's just make sure that we are doing this correctly. And again, I'm quite shocked that this question is worth 3 marks. So I've got 5 over 9, and then 2192 minus 32, close bracket, plus 273 equals, and I get an answer of 1473 Kelvin, and there is my final answer. Looking at question 12, it says n is negative. Circle the expression that is positive. So for this, what you could do is substitute pick a negative number. Let's go for n equals minus 3, and then substitute it into each of these expressions and see which one gives you a positive answer, in which the correct answer you should have is n squared. Looking at question 13, it says choose one of the following to make a correct statement each time. So when a equals 3, so what we've got to do here is substitute a equals 3 into these two expressions. So substituting a equals 3, well, 4 times 3 is 12, and 3 plus 7 is 10. So from this you can see that 12 is greater than 10. Then when we substitute 8 into these expressions, I'm going to end up with 16 minus 6, which is 10. And I end up with 18 minus 8, which is also 10. So that means it's going to be is equal to. Then when c equals 0.5, so this is going to be 1.5. This is going to be 1.5. So again, that one is also going to be is equal to. And then with the last one of minus 1, so let me just pick another color that I've not done. Let's go green. So here minus 1, and minus 1 squared is positive 1. And that is less than, so is less than. Moving on to question 14. So again, sticking with the theme of formulas. So it says, here is a formula for the amount of water needed to cook rice. W is the number of cups of water needed, and R is the number of cups of rice to be cooked. How many cups of water is needed to cook 7 cups of rice? So for this, what we need to do is to look at substituting R. Let me choose a different color. So we're going to substitute R equals 7 into this. So what I've got is I've got 1.5 times 7 plus 0.5. And if I type that into my calculator, what I should end up having is an answer of 11. Then for B, it says how many cups of rice can be cooked with 20 cups of water. So for this, what I've got to do is substitute W equals 20. So what I've got is I've got 20 equals 1.5 R plus 0.5. So what I've got to then do is solve this equation. So I take the 0.5 over to the other side by taking it away. So 19.5 equals 1.5 R. So then R equals 19.5 divided by 1.5, and if I work that out again on my calculator, it should give me an answer of 13. Moving on to question 15, so another formula question. It says here is a formula, and we've got v equals half x squared h. So let me just write that out in case it's come out a little bit fuzzy on your screens. And it says work out v when x equals 11 and h equals 6. So from this, we've got v equals, and it's going to be a half times 11 squared times 6. And if I enter that, or you could write 0.5 for half, but if you want to use fractions, that's fine. And if you substitute that incorrectly, you should have an answer of 363. Moving on to question 16, it says complete the table of values. So for this, what we need to do is substitute numbers in. So for this, wherever we see an x, so let me just substitute the x into these. So what I'm going to do for this first one is substitute x equals 1 minus 1. So here I've got minus 1 squared minus 2 lots of minus 1, and that should give me an answer of 3. Then if I substitute x equals 2 into the equation, I get 2 squared minus 2 lots of 2, which equals 0. And then finally substituting x equals 3, so I've got 3 squared minus 2 times 3, which gives me an answer of 3. So then next, what I'm going to do is to draw the graph. So for this, what I need to do is plot these coordinates. So I'm plotting these coordinates here. Now again, with every time I'm using this, mine is going to be a lot messier than yours. So 0, 0, 1, minus 1 is there, 2, 0, and 3, 3 is there. And then all you then got to do is just make sure that you are joining those points up as best as you can and trying not to have too much of a flat bottom, but it should be a nice smooth curve, which clearly I have not done there. But make sure that your line does go through each of the points. Again, let me just have one attempt at doing a better job. I don't think they're successful with this one. And there we go. Should look something looks like that. Next question then says, write down the coordinates of the turning point of the graph. Well, the turning point of the graph is this point here. So that there is my turning point. And that coordinate there is 1, minus 1. Then moving on to question 17, it says here we've got a graph of a plus bx minus x squared is shown, and it says circle the coordinates of the turning point. So again, our turning point is here, and that coordinate is 2, 16. So I'm looking for 2, 16, which is our third option. Now in terms of circle the value of a, we're looking at a is the y-intercept. So the constant, or the number that hasn't got a letter, is always going to be where it crosses the y-axis. As you can see, that it crosses the y-axis at this point here. So that's the value of a, which is 12. It then says circle the roots of this, and so the roots are where the curve crosses the x-axis. So it's at this number here and this number here, which is at -2 and 6, and which is my first option. Moving on to question 18. So now we move on to sequences and finding the nth term. So here it says the linear sequence starts 11, 21, 31, 41, and says write down, work out the expression for the nth term of this sequence. So here you can see that the difference is plus 10. So we're going to have 10n in the formula. If I just write 10 there, and what I then need to see, what do I need to add to 10 to make 11, which is our first term? Well, I need to add 1. So then the nth term is going to be 10n plus 1. Moving on to question 19, it says the nth term of a sequence is 5n minus 2. Work out the third term, so that's going to be 5 times 3, take away 2, which is 15, take away 2, which is 13, which is our fourth option. Question 20 says the first four terms of a linear sequence are given. Circle the expression for the nth term. So here we can see that our difference is plus 4. So we're looking for a 4n. And then what do you have to do to get from 4 to get to the first term? Well, I need to add 3, which is our second option. Looking at question 21, it says first four terms of the linear sequence are as follows. Circle the expression for the nth term. Looking at this, the difference is plus 8. So I'm looking for 8n. And then what do I need to do from 8 to get to the first term? I need to take away 5. So it's 8n minus 5, which is my fourth option. Then looking at question 22, it says here is a sequence, and we then need to work this out. So here we're looking for the difference as being minus 8. So we're looking for minus 8n. And then what do I have to do to get from minus 8 to 90? Well, I need to add 98. And that is going to be this formula here. So because again, I'm looking for minus 8n and a positive 98. get rid of that cursor. Question 23 says here is another linear sequence and we've just got to find the nth term. So the difference here is 8 and take away 3. For question 24, again finding the nth term, so I'm looking for 4n. And then what do I have to do to get from 4 to 3? Well, I need to take away 1. So it's my third option. Question 25 says work out the nth term of this sequence. So here I need to add 6. So I'm looking for 6n. Then what do I have to do to get from 6 to get to the first term? Well, I need to add 1. So there is my nth term. Now with a geometric progression, geometric progressions are where the difference is a multiple. So to find the relationship between two consecutive terms, all you need to do is just divide one by the other. So here I've got 16 divided by 4, which is 4. So the rule is I multiply by 4. So the next term is going to be 16 times 4, which is 64. Then the next question says a Fibonacci type sequence starts 3 minus 8. So again, the sequence continues by adding the previous two terms. So the next term is going to be 3 plus minus 8, which is minus 5. And then the next one is going to be minus 8 plus minus 5, because then the next term is minus 5. And if I do that subtraction, I get minus 13. And so there are my next two terms. Looking at question 27, it says which of these is a geometric progression. So again, what you want to do here is divide as many numbers as you can. So basically looking for which pattern shows where they've got the same multiple, in which the answer for 27 is the fourth one. Which of these is a geometric progression? And the correct answer you should have is this bottom left hand corner. For question 29, which sequence is a geometric progression? The correct answer is the bottom left. And then moving on to our last question, which is the first two terms of an arithmetic progression are shown. The sum of the first three terms is 90. Work out the value of p. So with this, we're looking for how do I get from this to this? Well, I need to add 4p. So that means I need to add 4p to 5p, and that gives me 9p. Now the sum of the first three terms, so that's going to be p plus 4p plus 9p, and that all equals 90. So adding the left hand side up, I get 15p equals 90. So p equals 90 divided by 15, which gives me an answer of, and that's going to be 6. And there is my final answer.